This is the story of how a boy from Gary, Indiana, deliberately killed the most beloved group name in soul music history, not out of desperation but as a weapon. And by the time we reach number 1, you will never look at Michael Jackson the same way again. Reason number 9, the royalty revelation. Now stay with me here, because this is where the business side gets ruthless. By the early 1970s, the Jackson 5 were one of the top grossing acts in America, sold out arenas. Merchandise flying off shelves, a Saturday morning cartoon series with their faces on it. And what were they earning from all of this?
Let's dance, let's shout, shake your body now to the ground.
According to multiple accounts from family members and industry insiders, embarrassingly little, relative to what the Motown machine was pulling in. Here's the number that will make your jaw drop.
Let's dance, let's shout, shake your body now to the ground.
It has been reported that after Motown's deductions for production costs, promotional expenses, and various other fees that conveniently always seem to eat into the earnings,
Shake your body now to the ground.
the Jacksons were sometimes clearing just a few cents on every dollar generated by their name. A few cents on their own name. Michael Jackson, even as a teenager, had an almost supernatural intuition for the value of intellectual property. He later famously outbid Paul McCartney for the ATV music catalogue, a $47 million purchase that eventually became worth hundreds of millions. That instinct didn't appear out of nowhere. It was forged in the furnace of watching Berry Gordy profit enormously from Jackson 5 music that the Jacksons themselves had minimal ownership over. When Joe Jackson started negotiating for better terms and Gordy wouldn't move, that was the moment the clock started on the Jackson 5's time at Motown. Michael was watching every negotiation. He was absorbing every lesson.
And I do know that I want you.
And the lesson number 9 teaches us is brutal and simple. You cannot build generational wealth on someone else's contract terms.
Let's dance, let's shout, shake your body now to.
The sacrifice of the group name was in part a financial reclamation, a refusal to keep building Gordy's empire with Jackson blood.
If you enjoyed this video, we invite you to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss an update, and the real stories behind the music that built the world we live in. Don't miss the next one. We will see you there. Back to the countdown.
Reason number 8. The creative straitjacket. You want to understand why Michael Jackson eventually blew the entire music world apart with Off the Wall and Thriller.
I just can't control my feet.
You have to understand what Motown would not let him do first, because the frustration that built up inside that young man was an artistic pressure cooker, and Berry Gordy kept tightening the lid.
We spent the night in Frisco at every kind of disco.
The Jackson 5 were assigned songs. They were told what to record. Producers were selected for them. The musical direction was dictated by what Gordy believed the market wanted, and Gordy was very good at reading markets.
We just got the sunshine, yeah, moonlight.
But reading a market and nurturing a visionary are two completely different things. Michael Jackson was not a market-friendly artist waiting to happen. He was a seismic event waiting to detonate.
Down on the good times, living on the boogie.
And Motown's formula kept delaying the explosion. Jermaine Jackson, in later interviews, spoke about how the brothers would pitch ideas, suggest different sounds,
Don't blame it on the sunshine, don't blame it on the moonlight.
push toward new territory, and consistently be steered back toward the Motown formula that had worked. Safe, reliable, profitable for the label, artistically strangling for the artist.
Blame it on yourself, sunshine, ain't nobody.
Michael specifically wanted to explore a broader sonic palette, funk, rock influences, deeper soul textures. He was listening to Sly Stone. He was studying James Brown with almost academic obsession. He saw where music was going. Motown was determined to keep the Jackson 5 where the money was comfortable, not where Michael's genius was pointing. Number 8 is this: Berry Gordy's greatest mistake wasn't the royalty structure. It was refusing to give Michael Jackson creative room to evolve. Because when Michael finally got that room first at Epic with Off the Wall, then in its full, terrifying form with Thriller, he didn't just outperform Motown. He made Motown's entire catalog look like a warm-up act. The sacrifice of the group name was the price of creative freedom, and Michael paid it without blinking.
I just can't control my feet. I just can't.
Reason number 7, the Jermaine problem. Now here is the entry that most people find genuinely heartbreaking because it involves family, loyalty, and the kind of choice that fractures bloodlines. When the Jackson 5 finally made the decision to leave Motown in 1975 to sign with CBS Records and operate under Epic, they did not all leave together. Jermaine Jackson stayed behind, and the reason why tells you everything about the power Berry Gordy wielded. Jermaine had married Hazel Gordy, Berry Gordy's daughter. And when the family walked, Jermaine was placed in an impossible position, his wife's family and his own birth family, pulling in opposite directions. He chose to stay at Motown, he chose Gordy. And the group that left became the Jacksons without Jermaine, and without the name the world had fallen in love with. ABC, 1, 2, 3, baby, you and me, girl. Think about what this meant strategically for a moment. Berry Gordy, whether intentionally or not, had placed a family member directly inside the Jackson orbit. When the split came, that family connection gave Gordy leverage that no contract clause could have manufactured. He didn't just keep an artist, he kept a brother. He fractured a unit that had performed together since childhood. Michael loved Jermaine deeply, that pain was real. But Michael also understood, as the split settled into permanence, that sentimentality could not be the governing force behind his career decisions. The group name Jackson 5 was retired in part because Jermaine still carried it in some capacity. And in part because the name itself was soiled with the Motown association that Michael was trying to surgically remove from his identity. Number 7 reveals the human cost of the strategy. This wasn't clean, it wasn't painless. Michael Jackson sacrificed not just a brand name, he participated in the fracturing of his own family, and he carried that weight. But he never reversed the decision, because the vision was bigger than the wound. Reason number 6, the CBS power move. When the Jacksons signed with CBS Records, the parent company of Epic, it wasn't just a label change. It was a declaration of intent delivered in the language of the music industry. CBS was the most powerful record company in the world at that moment. And the deal they structured for the Jacksons was categorically different from anything Berry Gordy had ever offered. Creative control, publishing participation, better royalty points. These were not small things. These were the foundational differences between an artist who owns their future and an artist who is essentially a very talented employee. The Jacksons, guided by Joe and with Michael increasingly engaged in the business discussions, negotiated a deal that treated them as principals rather than products. But here's the piece of this that most people overlook. When they signed to CBS, they weren't just signing for the group. Michael retained individual artist provisions within the overall structure that would allow him to record solo projects without the group. This was not an accident. This was architecture. Legal and commercial architecture designed years before Michael would use it. Off the Wall in 1979, produced by Quincy Jones and released on Epic, was the first true deployment of that architecture. It was a solo record by Michael Jackson, not a Jackson 5 project, not a Jackson's project, Michael Jackson. And it sold 8 million copies and produced 4 top 10 singles. That had never been done before from a single album. Number 6 is the moment Michael stopped being a group member who happened to be extraordinary and started being a global brand with a group of brothers he loved. The CBS signing was the structural foundation on which he eventually built Thriller, Bad, and the entire empire. And none of it was possible while Berry Gordy held the deed on their professional identity. Reason number 5, the Quincy Code. We have to talk about Quincy Jones.
Even though you're gone.
Because Michael Jackson's relationship with Quincy Jones is, in many ways, the answer to the question this entire documentary is built around.
Even though you're gone.
How do you defeat a man like Berry Gordy? You find someone even more brilliant and you align yourself with them on your own terms.
Even though you're gone.
Quincy Jones was, by the late 1970s, one of the most respected figures in the entire music industry. Arranger, composer, producer, a man who had worked with Frank Sinatra, Miles Davis, and Ray Charles.
Oh, and I've been thinking about my...
A man whose ear was essentially a precision instrument. When Michael connected with Quincy through the filming of The Wiz in 1978, where Quincy was musical director,
Yesterday.
and Michael was playing the Scarecrow, it was one of those partnerships that music history occasionally produces and immediately recognizes as significant.
Every minute I get stronger. Somehow, some
But notice what that partnership was not. It was not Motown assigned. It was not Berry Gordy approved.
way. 'Cause I
It was not routed through a corporate structure that would take publishing points and production fees off the top.
gotta keep on living. I got
Michael Jackson and Quincy Jones found each other as free agents, and what they created together was entirely their own. Off the Wall was the proof of concept. Thriller was the detonation.
gotta find a way somehow.
And at the center of Thriller's commercial dominance was a fundamental truth. Every dollar, every chart position,
Find a way somehow. Even though you
every record shattered belonged to Michael Jackson in a way that no Jackson 5 Motown record ever fully could.
I got to give 'em up and start anew.
Number 5 is about choosing your collaborators with the same precision you choose your battles.
Inside.
Berry Gordy had always assigned the Jacksons their creative partners. The moment Michael chose Quincy freely, deliberately,
Even though I feel so bad, so bad.
on his own terms, he was announcing to the industry that the old arrangement was permanently dissolved. Gordy could not touch what Quincy and Michael were building, and deep down he had to know it.
For one, instead of making plans for two.
Reason number 4, the ATV masterstroke. Now we enter the territory where Michael Jackson stops being a music artist in the conventional sense and becomes something closer to a chess grandmaster, operating on a board that most people couldn't even see. 1985. Thriller has already happened. Michael Jackson is the most famous human being on planet Earth, and he makes a phone call about a music catalog. The ATV music publishing catalog contained the rights to approximately 250 Beatles songs. Paul McCartney, who co-wrote most of them with John Lennon, wanted to buy it. His bid was reportedly around $20 million. Michael Jackson outbid him with a $47.5 million offer and acquired the catalog. Paul McCartney later said he was genuinely hurt by what he perceived as a betrayal from someone he'd considered a friend. But here is the connection to Berry Gordy that almost no one draws clearly enough. Michael Jackson did not develop his obsession with music publishing rights by accident. He developed it by watching what happened to his family at Motown. He watched Berry Gordy own the masters. He watched the Jacksons generate cultural earthquakes while someone else held the fault lines. He absorbed that lesson at 12 years old, and he never stopped thinking about it. The ATV purchase was Michael Jackson saying, "In the clearest possible financial language, I understand now how this industry actually works." I understand that the real power is not in being the artist, it is in owning the composition. Gordy knew this. That's why Motown retained publishing on Jackson 5 material. Number 4 is where the student laps the teacher. Michael Jackson didn't just reclaim his own freedom from the Motown model. He went further than Gordy ever had and acquired ownership over other people's most valuable creative work. Berry Gordy built Motown by controlling artists. Michael Jackson built his empire by controlling catalogs. The difference is generational. The difference is permanent. Reason number 3, the Thriller thesis. 47 years after its release, Thriller remains the best-selling album in recorded music history. Over 70 million copies sold globally, 14 Grammy nominations, 7 Grammy Awards. A short film thriller that redefined what a music video could be and is still studied in film schools. A cultural event so massive that it essentially created a new category of commercial achievement that the industry is still using as a benchmark. And every single dollar, every single Grammy, every single frame of that Thriller video was Berry Gordy's nightmare made manifest. Because here is what Thriller actually was beyond the music, beyond the spectacle. It was proof that Michael Jackson, liberated from the Motown system, was not merely a great artist. He was the greatest commercial and artistic force popular music had ever produced. Gordy had managed Michael Jackson as part of a package, 1/5 of a group. A remarkable 1/5, certainly the lead vocalist, the undeniable star, but still framed and sold as a component. Thriller was the world's introduction to Michael Jackson as a singular, irreducible, unmatchable force. And there was no Jackson 5 in that picture. There was no Motown. There was no Berry Gordy. The deliberate erasure of the group identity, the sacrifice of the Jackson 5 name, made Thriller possible. Because Thriller required the world to see Michael as one, not as part of something, as the thing itself. If he was still half defined by the group, by the Motown legacy, by the childhood brand, the psychological break required for the world to perceive him at his true scale might never have fully completed. Number 3 is the simplest entry on this entire list. Thriller was the victory lap, and you can only run a victory lap alone. Reason number 1, the name was never the prize, and here we are. The reason this entire story matters.
Sunshine, don't blame it on the moonlight.
The thing that makes Michael Jackson's decision to sacrifice the Jackson 5 name not just a business maneuver, but a philosophical statement that every creative person in every industry should study until they understand it in their bones.
Good times, don't you?
Michael Jackson did not give up the Jackson 5 name because he wanted to abandon his brothers.
Sunshine, you just got the moonlight.
He gave it up because he understood something that Berry Gordy had inadvertently taught him, that names given by institutions are chains disguised as crowns. The Jackson 5 name was Motown's. It was created within Gordy's system, shaped by Gordy's machine, and in many ways defined by the limitations of what Gordy's system allowed it to be. For Michael to become what he needed to become, not just a successful artist, not just a rich man, but a genuinely transformative figure in the history of human expression, he needed a name that belonged entirely to himself.
That dirty rhythm fools me. The devil's got them to me.
Michael Jackson, 2 words, no affiliations, no group, no label identity embedded in the brand, no Berry Gordy fingerprints on the mythology, just one man and everything he was capable of.
But somehow this has struck me. Spellbound rhythm gets me.
The sacrifice of the Jackson 5 name was not a defeat. It was a declaration of self-ownership at the most fundamental level available to a recording artist in that era.
On my feet, I changed my life completely.
And the proof of concept arrived on November 30th, 1982, the day Thriller was released.
Wouldn't be a bad thing, but I don't get no loving.
and the world's relationship with popular music was permanently altered. Berry Gordy built a system. Michael Jackson outgrew a system.
I'm blaming on the boogie. I don't blame it on the sunshine.
And then armed with Quincy Jones, a publishing catalogue worth hundreds of millions, and a singular artistic vision that had been compressed and pressurized by years of Motown's restrictions, he built something no system could contain.
The devil's got them to me. The business. I'm full of.
The Jackson 5 was a beginning. Michael Jackson was the destination. And the distance between those two things is exactly the length of Berry Gordy's greatest miscalculation.
Don't blame it on the moonlight. Don't blame it on the good time.
He thought he was managing a group. He was actually incubating a revolution. And when that revolution arrived, didn't even remember his name was on the lease. This has been R&B Grove.
Don't blame it on the moonlight. Don't blame it on the good time.
If you made it this far, you already know the story of Michael Jackson and Berry Gordy is really the story of every creative soul.
Don't blame it on the sunshine. Don't blame it on the moonlight.
Whoever had to choose between the safety of belonging to something and the terrifying necessary freedom of belonging to themselves. Subscribe, because next time we go even deeper.